Everyone is talking about building AI agents with n8n and MCP, but what they don't tell you is that you can now turn your n8n server into an MCP server. This is something revolutionary and something that has changed especially the voice AI game. See, previously we couldn't really use MCP for voice AI because it was way too slow. The way you needed to set it up, you needed a middleman that starts up the MCP server and allows you to actually use it with voice AI. Then you would have waiting times from 5 to 10 to 30 seconds up to a minute just to get whatever result comes back from that MCP server. This has completely changed with an incredibly simple setup that n8n allows you to do now, which is turn your whole n8n instance into an MCP server, basically using the workflows that you already built inside of n8n as MCP tools, which is a massive game changer. Now in this video, I'm gonna show you how n8n actually looks like as an MCP server, how you can leverage it for yourself, how you can set this whole thing up in the easiest possible way, and some extra goodies along the way that I learned that save you hours of debugging, making sure that you can really focus on utility, implement it into your own processes, or potentially for your clients. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jannis Moore and I run my own voice AI automation agency called n8n, and we help everyone from small businesses up to Fortune 200 companies to build awesome solutions with voice AI. At the beginning of the year, we started an educational program that helps now over 4,000 voice AI enthusiasts to sell voice AI solutions to businesses and make a lot of money with that, enabling them to live a life of freedom and on their very own terms. So everything you see in the video will also be available completely for free inside of our community. So simply follow the link below the description to check it out, get access to it, and follow me along on the screen. Now before diving into it, I'm gonna show you an example so you actually see what I'm talking about, so you get a feel for how it works. And what we're going to use in this case is obviously Vapi as our voice AI solution, and we are using n8n as an MCP server. And yes, this is not the AI agent module that you can think of, it is literally using n8n as tools. So your workflows are literally tools inside of an MCP server, which is crazy. Now, to show you how that works in an actual example, I already prepared an assistant. As you can see here inside of my Vapi dashboard, I have a very basic system prompt that just allows me to talk to it. And the only purpose of this thing is it basically spits out some random cat jokes based on a cat name that I put in. And this works literally by using an MCP server tool that I built inside of n8n, which looks like this. So it's basically being executed from somewhere. It does some OpenAI magic and it saves some response to a variable. That's literally all it does. But this workflow alone is literally the MCP tool, which is what Vapi, so our voice AI agent, is going to use to get the information out of n8n, or basically generate the cat joke. So to actually show you that, I'm simply clicking here on Talk to Assistant, and we're gonna have a quick chat so you can see in the conversation as well what happens.
Hello, Jannis. What's up?
Hey, can you please tell me a joke about my cat Adam?
Oh, for sure. I can absolutely do that. Just give me a sec to process your request. Let's see if there's a cat tool ready for whisker tickling jokes. Oops-a-daisy. It looks like there was a bit of a hiccup with fetching the cat joke. Let's try that again, shall we? I won't let Adam down. Let me find another tool with a feisty whisker joke for your kitty pal. Give me a moment. Perfect. Everything is in place now. Let's get that delightful cat joke for Adam. Executing the get cat joke tool. Hold on a sec. Here you go, Jannis. Why did Adam the cat sit on the computer all day? Because he wanted to keep an eye on the mouse. I hope that made you smile. If you want more cat fun.
So, as you can see, it had a little hiccup right over here, but it executed a lot of things at the same time. This was literally an agentic interaction with a phone AI agent or with a voice AI agent. And you can see as well what it exactly did using the MCP tool that I created inside of that MCP server. And as you've probably seen, it tried to search a tool, it tried to execute something which didn't work out for whatever reason. So we can look into that. It says, did not match the expected schema. So that is something that I can help you fix, because that is something that is actually wrong within the n8n template of this whole setup that I'm going to show you, but more on that in a minute. And you can see here as well, it basically searched the tool again, it fetched the tool, it found it, and then it executed it. So it basically got the cat joke. And now if we head back into n8n, you can see as well here that there's a new execution coming in that was literally happening because of the call. And you can see this was the one that happened right now. If I go onto it, you can see now as well, if I open the message model, you can see it says here, sure, here you go. Why did Adam the cat sit on the computer all day? This is literally the joke that the voice AI agent told me. And you also could see and obviously hear that the execution of this whole thing in here was incredibly quick. So all of this is possible now with your very own workflows that you can build out for your specific agents. So doing things like appointment setting, checking availability, adjusting calendars can be literally done incredibly easy now using n8n itself with any kind of custom workflow that you can create on your your very own terms on the terms of your customer. So there are no weird middleman solutions anymore spinning up an n8n server. It can literally just be used right out of the box now, which gives your voice agents a little bit more of leverage if you really want to use and leverage MCP. Now you may also ask yourself, why not just use normal tools rather than MCP? Because this is going to be the future and it allows you to do a couple of things more streamlined. In this case, for example, directly in n8n without ever touching Vapi. So you can adjust tools without ever touching Vapi again, which is really, really cool. And something I'm also going to show you. Now, given that you've seen it and that it works, you probably ask, how do you actually set that up? And this is where a couple of few templates come in that you will get access to as well inside of our community. So you can simply download and fetch them with a link that is below. And once you did that, you will find two scenarios. You can see them as well here on my screen. One is called Brain MCP, and this is basically the brain behind everything. It looks complicated, trust me, it's not, and it's actually a just slightly modified template from n8n itself, which is also part of the community. And this one is just optimized in a way to avoid these extra issues, like the one that you've seen, for example, where I tried to call a tool call, but it wasn't working that well. And this is just because of a small little tweaks that I added in here, which I'm also going to explain you in a bit on why this happens and how you can prevent it. So fetching this tool and importing it is literally all you need to do. And you need to adjust a couple of values in here as well, like the Redis memory, for example, or the OpenAI chat completion key, or your n8n API key. Now, if you don't know how to set all of these things up, there is a full video, which is also linked below this one, where I cover everything on how to really set up the n8n MCP server itself. So this is a whole video in itself that gives you really in-depth understanding on how to do it. But if you are very familiar with n8n, the tips that I just gave you right now is literally all you need to do. So again, you just need to add a Redis server, you adjust your memory, you add the n8n API key of your own instance. So you go basically to settings, API key, you add it in here, and you add your OpenAI API key. This is literally all you need to do to make this whole thing work. Once you have implemented this Brain MCP, which acts as your MCP server, you are pretty much ready to go. Then we can already start hooking up the MCP server to Vapi, and then also configure the workflows that we would like to use. And I'm gonna guide you through this whole process step by step so you really understand how it works. Now, to make it work, we obviously start with a scenario, right? You import that, you connect everything, you activate it right here, and you save it. This is all you need to do. Once you've connected those variables, you're pretty much good to go. There's nothing else that you need to set up in here. This whole thing will basically run by itself, will do its very own magic, and acts as your MCP server. So the next thing you do is you obviously need to have an agent. And for that, we're going to head into Vapi and we're going to create a new assistant right over here. So I'll click on create assistant. I'm just going to call it n8n cat MCP server. So this is literally just my MCP server test. I select a blank template, I click on create assistant, and I'll wait until the assistant is created. Now, in here, we just do a couple of minimal adjustments for now, as this is a demo and not focused about the voice agent, but the actual utility. And what I'm going to do is I click here on generate and I just speak in or type in a prompt. Create an agent prompt that can interact with an MCP server that focuses on cat tools that allow the user to get some cat jokes out of it based on the tools to put a smile on their face. So that's literally a very basic prompt. I'm just going to click on submit edit, and now Vapi is basically just generating a small prompt for that. So this is going to be something very basic, and I will also share that example with you so you can just use that instead of just creating your own. So I'm going to click on save changes and here just say hello Jannis. That's literally all I'm going to do. And now I just click on publish here, which means now we have our very basic AI agent ready that just has a couple of constraints, a couple of arrow fallback handling things. And we basically just instruct it in some way without me even reading through it that it should do certain things with cat interactions with the MCP tool we're going to add. Now, once we have done that, all we're going to do now is we head over here to tools. And in tools, we're going to click here on create tool, go down here to MCP, which now adds a new MCP tool, which is going to be the tool we use to basically turn our n8n into an actual MCP server. So the way I'm going to call it is I'll just call it cat tools, right? Because we just focus in this example on cat tools. You can call that n8n tools or whatever utility you want to add through n8n in your agent. So if it's a real estate specific agent, you want to, for example, call it calendar tools or CRM tools or whatever you want to have access to through your n8n MCP server. In my call, I'm just going to call it cat tools and I say a couple of available cat tools to put a smile on the user's face. So something like that. And now, once we have done that, we have a couple of more settings that we need to set up, and they're in combination with our actual n8n scenario. So as a next step, we head back over to our Brain n8n scenario. We're going to go here on the trigger, we double click it. You then head to your production URL, you copy the production URL, and you head back into your Vapi tool. Once here, you simply paste the URL in the server URL field. And then as a next thing, we go down here to add header. In the header name, we're going to type in authorization like that. Then we go over here to the value, we type in bearer, and then we also type in a space. And now we need to add in the API key of our n8n instance. And to do that, you simply head over to your n8n account, go down here on these little three dots, you go to settings, and in the settings you go to n8n API key. You basically create an API key of your choice, and you basically paste that one inside of your Vapi assistant after the bearer space. Now, once you've done that, it will look something like this. And now here in the MCP settings, all you do is you select server sent events. So it's still running on server sent events and not on the streamable version. This is basically the new modern version of MCP, and these SSE are deprecated. However, the current MCP module is still built for SSE. I mentioned that in the other video as well. This is probably going to change in the future, but I assume there will be an extra setting for it. So you will probably be able to just continue using SSE for now, which does all of the magic and works actually pretty well. Now, once you've done that, you simply click here on save. And now it's basically time for us to go back into the assistant, because now we connected the tool with our n8n MCP server. Now we just need to connect the assistant to the n8n tool, to the tool that we just created. And we can do that right here, going to our assistant, tools, and in the tool section, we just select the cat tools that we just created. If I click now on publish, this is literally it. Congratulations, now you have connected your cat tool to the actual n8n MCP server. However, it has still no functionality as of now. If you watched my previous video, you probably know that there is more utility or more things that we need to do to enable certain workflows so that you can use them inside of the MCP server, because this MCP server by default has not access to any of the available workflows pretty much, or the tools. This is something we need to add. And there are two main things that we need to do. Obviously, first of all, we need to create a workflow or a scenario, and we need to tag it. And then we also need to add this tag scenario to the active tools inside of that MCP server. It sounds hard in theory. Practically, it's very easy. I'm going to show you also how. You will also have access to that get cat joke scenario right here, or workflow, which looks like this. So it's a very basic one. There's not much you need to customize. The only thing you need to do is you click up here on this little tagging thing. You will basically not have a tag, and you just add MCP. It's very important that you just add MCP, all lowercase, because this basically acts as a tag that we are going to use inside of the MCP brain, so the n8n MCP server workflow that we created earlier, to access this sub-scenario. Once you've done that, and once you've added all those modules and you basically connected your API keys, you save it. You don't need to activate it because it's being activated from a different scenario anyways, but this is step number one. Now we have basically this scenario in here. So what we need to do now is we need to activate this scenario inside of our MCP server. And to do that, all you do is you basically go into the URL of your n8n workflow, which looks like this. You just copy this ID after the /workflows. Once you've done that, you head back into your MCP brain, which I'm going to show you here, because right in here we can add things manually. This is something you can, for example, do in an IDE, like if you use Cursor directly in the IDE, because you have tools for that. But for my case, we're gonna just use the chat widget right here, which you can open by clicking here on the chat functionality of the testing setup. And all we're gonna do here is we say now, add the following workflow. And then you just type in the ID that you copied. Now, once you run this thing, you can see that it basically runs through it. It says the provided server URL is invalid, which means, yep, I haven't even added it here. So that's something you can do as well. What you do is you basically just go up here to workflow server, you copy the production URL, you close that, go down here, go to MCP client, and you paste that one right in here. Once you've done that, you are ready to basically execute the step again. So I just say, try again, boom. So it now executes the MCP client, and you can say it basically updated it. And now it's gonna come back with a response, whether or not it actually worked out, which it obviously should, because we just added this ID, so it should be fairly straightforward. Okay, so for some reason my n8n crashed, which was more like a mistake from my side, but it should work now again. So all you would need to do is you literally just paste in what I said, which would then run through this scenario right here, and it would basically add the extra scenario in this tag right over here. And this will then just execute or add this tag to your Redis cache, which makes it available inside of your Vapi agent. So I'm just gonna do that again, just to show you. Add the following workflow. And now we're just gonna paste the workflow ID. So now this thing runs through, basically just activates it. And now we simply just need to wait until it's being added to the Redis cache, which shouldn't take too long. There we go. It basically called the chat model, and it's now updating it. And this should be it. So you can see now as well, it says the workflow ID has been added successfully. So this means now you have basically added this specific workflow that you just created into the active n8n MCP server, which now makes it available inside of your Vapi assistant. Now, this is something that you could, for example, automate directly within the n8n server or the actual agent. So if you would have that ID added into your system prompt of Vapi, you could, for example, have Vapi automatically control which ones are available. Now, in that case, I wouldn't recommend it because it's not intended to. So you can just activate them straight through your scenario. So they are available right in here. And obviously, you can also customize things. So if you have multiple clients, for example, you can spin up multiple n8n servers. So basically multiple brains. And what you can do is you can just adjust here the n8n key. So this is basically just what's being used for storage of your specific setup. So if you have any kind of clients, you would basically just adjust this to a client specific key. And then you can also just use a different tag that is maybe for a specific client, right? And that way you can adjust this whole scenario in a very similar way so that you can serve multiple clients with multiple n8n MCP servers on your very own n8n account. However, now we've set it up so we can actually test it. So once you connect to the cat tool right here, we can now give it a call and see whether or not it actually uses the cat tool that is available. And I do that by clicking here on Talk to Assistant and have a quick conversation with my AI.
Hello, Jannis.
Hey, can you please use my cat's name Lisa for, I don't know, any kind of cool cat tool that you have access to?
Meowdy, Lisa. Sure thing. Are you and Lisa interested in hearing a perfect cat joke or learning more about some cool cat tools I have? Let me know.
Yeah, Lisa is my cat. I'd like you to use a cat tool.
Perfect. Let me fetch some cat-tastic tools for you and Lisa. Give me a moment to find the best ones for my collection. For tastic news, I've added a cat tool called Get Cat Joke. Would you and Lisa like to hear a possum joke now?
Yeah, sure.
One moment. Meowdy, Lisa. Why did you bring a pencil to the party? Because you wanted to draw some perfect attention. Would you two like to hear another joke or explore more cat tools?
So as you can see, it works. It had access to this tool that we created. And for some reason, you can see it basically tried to make a joke, but the transcription didn't work out so well. So this should have been perfect, like you probably know the joke. I don't need to explain that. But just looking back into our actually MCP setup, if we now go back here to our sub workflow, so the get cat joke, and I basically go to executions, you can now see that there was a new execution, which is probably this one. And if I click on it, you can see as well the actual response. You can see it says perfect attention. So it basically gave back the joke. It delivered the joke within the voice AI, and it was actually fairly quick. For the fact that it also did a couple of calls, it not just did a search tool, it actually added the workflow as well. So it tried to find the tool and then add the workflow itself to basically activate it. So it's something that it can do. I would have expected it to automatically do it for me because I added it in the manual workflow, but we can figure out why it just did it or what basically triggered it. It might even have been my prompt. So it's probably something I would need to debug, but you can see that it did it. It searched the tool, it activated the tool as well. And then it just executed it with the cat name. And you can see that in here as well. Oh, you can actually see it in here. You have to see it in the call logs, but it basically sent in the workflow ID and it also sent in the cat name so that it returns a proper cat joke. So as you can see, it mentioned Lisa in here as well, which is the name of the cat, obviously, like I mentioned it, and it returned the joke. And you have seen that this is literally in a few milliseconds, so it doesn't take much time. And this has all been handled by the n8n MCP server that we have created. So this is a very, very powerful setup that can really enable a lot of more functionality for your voice agents without you configuring everything directly inside of Vapi anymore. You can now just build your own n8n MCP server that you can share between different platforms. So any voice AI provider that provides n8n functionality can use that, which is really, really awesome. And it just enables you to get access to a whole new world on using tools, interacting with agentic features, and just make more out of whatever you're building in the voice AI space. Now, like I say, you will get access to all of this inside of our community. The link for that is down below in the description, so definitely make sure to check it out as it's worth it. And lastly, for our nerdy ones that really want to understand what I customized based on the template, because this template that I've shown you from Brain MCP, this was literally something that n8n provides. This is something that was n8n created, so I'll just give you access to it. And I just did a small tweak that makes this whole thing a little bit more functional, because by itself, the way it is set up, there are some issues that could be fixed, and I'm just going to show you a quick fix and how you can potentially fix it if you really want to put in a bit more work, just correcting a couple of more values. And the little adjustment I did is literally just in here in the execute workflow node, which when opening it, you will see it basically is the execute workflow operation as we know, and it has a feature right here called workflow IDs. And this workflow ID is what usually causes the issue. Because it is plural, it sometimes causes Vapi to return an array of objects in JSON format, which breaks this whole thing and basically causes your execution not to return any results because the schema doesn't match. That's a big issue, and the way I fixed it in this case, very simple. I just added a description that says a single workflow ID string, and we can also just make this more important, by just forcing saying only strings allowed, only a single workflow ID allowed. You can really be creative and see what works best for you. This is just a quick fix, so you understand that you need to provide a single string workflow ID to make sure the execution actually works. And this is all that needed to be changed to make sure this thing is compatible with the standards of how Vapi as well provides the tool parameters to the actual MCP server of your n8n server. Now, this is an extra little goodie that now enables us to use Vapi with n8n MCP, which is such a massively powerful thing. I'm more than interested to understand where you are going to leverage this thing for yourself. So please drop me a comment below this video and tell me more about where you are using these kind of solutions so that I can see what you're actually working on with MCP, because that's going to be a game changer for all of us. And I'm more than happy to drop more value on that while you're dropping more value down below in the comments as well. So that's all from my side for now. I really hope that brought you some value, and thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.